Let's start by cleaning up our main.dart file. We can rename our app to Flutter Social UI. And then we'll change the theme data to primary color, colors.blue. And then below our MyApp class, we can delete the MyHomepage class. And then for the home, we'll type in login screen. Now let's create a screens folder inside our lib directory. We're going to make a file called login_screen.dart. And this is going to be a stateful widget. And I can type in STF, which is the shortcut using the VS Code extension Awesome Flutter Snippets. Hit enter, and then login screen. Remember to import material by hovering over stateful widget, holding down command period on Mac, and then selecting material.dart. After that, let's have our login screen return a scaffold. And hit save. Now go back to main.dart, and then we can import the login screen. And then to remove the debug banner in the top right under title, we can add debug show checked mode banner and set that to false. Let's take a look at our login screen UI. We can see that we have an image here with a custom clipper. We have a text widget and then two text fields. And below that we have a flat button and then a container at the bottom of the screen, giving us an option to sign up. Now let's go to our login screen.dart and we can start building out this screen. For the screen, we're going to be using a single child scroll view. And you may be thinking that we could also use a list view, but the problem with a list view is that we're not able to have our image go underneath our status bar. If we have a list view, then the image is going to start over here, but by using a single child scroll view, the image will be able to go underneath the status bar. We're going to make a container widget, and we need to specify the height of the container, and that's just going to be mediaQuery.of_context.size.height. And that's so our scroll view takes up our entire screen. Now this container will contain a column widget, and inside that column widget we're going to have each of the different widgets. So let's create a child, column, children. Our first child will be an image, so we'll say image, image, asset, image, and then we're going to pass in the location of our image in our file tree. And that's going to be in assets, images, login_background.jpg. Let's hit save, and we see that the image appeared up here. Next, we'll edit the height of the image. We'll set it to mediaQuery.of_context.size.height divided by 2.5. And then in order to make it fill up to the top of the screen, we need to add a fit, and we'll use boxFit.cover. And in order to make sure our image always takes up the entire width of our container, we can also add the width property and use double.infinity. Next, let's add the text here. Underneath image, we'll create a text widget, and it'll say frenzy. We'll add a style to it. Text style, color, theme.of_context.primary color. And that's the blue color we set in our main.dart file here. Font size, 34.0. Font weight .bold. And we'll set the letter spacing to 1.0. Hit save, and now we have our text appearing here. Now let's work on adding the two text fields, each with a prefix icon. We're going to first add a size box of height 10.0. After that, we're going to create our text field. And our text field is going to have a decoration. input decoration. And if we hit save, we can see our text field appears. Inside the input decoration, we're going to have the property fill color, colors.white, and that's the color of the inside of our text field. In order to see the fill color, we need to set filled to true. And then we'll set the hint text to username. Now let's set the prefix icon, icons.account box, and set the size to 30.0. Looking at our UI here, we can see that the username label is not in line with the icon. And the way we fix that is by adding content padding to our input decoration and setting that to edge insets .symmetric vertical 15.0 and hit save. And that bumped our text down a little bit. Lastly, let's add some padding to our text field. Edge insets .symmetric horizontal 20.0 vertical 10.0. And now we have our first text field. Now for our second text field, let's copy this here, including the size box and the padding text field. Hit save, and we have our next text field. We can remove username and replace it with password. And then icons.account box, we can set that as icons.lock. And since this is a password field, we want to be able to obscure the text because we don't want users to see the password. So inside text field, but outside decoration, we'll set obscure text to true and hit save. And now we can't see what we're typing. For the button underneath our two text fields, we're going to create a container. We'll set the margins to edge insets .symmetric horizontal 60.0. The decoration, box decoration, color, theme.of context.primary color, and we'll also include the border radius, border radius .circular 30.0. And remember to add a height so we can see the container. Let's add the child text, text, login. And our container shrunk to the size of our text. So let's add the alignment property to our container. Alignment dot center. And now our container expanded again. We can style our text by doing text style, color, colors.white, font size 22.0. Font weight .w600, letter spacing, we'll set it to 1.5, and hit save. And it looks like I put too much border on our button, so let's reduce it to border radius.circular 10.0. And then we can add a sized box right above our container, height 40.0. In order to make the container clickable, we're going to wrap our container in a gesture detector and add on tap. For the final widget of our login screen, we need to add the container down here. And the way we do that is by going underneath our gesture detector, and we'll make the container. The alignment will be alignment.center, just like we did with our previous container. We'll have the color, theme.of context.primary color. The height we'll set to 80.0, Now let's hit save, and we see that our container appears right here. Let's add the child text before we push it down to the bottom. So we'll say don't have an account. And remember to add the apostrophe here. So we escape it with the backslash. Sign up. And for styling, text style, colors.white, font size 20.0, font weight.w 500. Now let's wrap our container in a gesture detector to make it clickable. Gesture detector. On tap. Give it an empty method. And to push our container down to the bottom of the screen, we need to wrap our gesture detector with a new widget called align. Alignment fractional offset dot bottom center. And that's going to align our container to the bottom center of the bounds around it. And then we wrap our align widget in expanded. And once we save, we're going to see the container be pushed all the way down to the bottom. The expanded widget is allowing the container to take up the rest of the screen, and then aligning the container to the bottom center sticks it to the bottom. So now if the keyboard comes up, we see that the container is still stuck on the bottom.